And good morning, Washington, D.C., my beautiful America, my shining city on a hill. I'm Eden Gordon-Hill, and welcome to the All-American Book Club. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a phenomenal author with us for the second time. We have Cheryl Chumley. All of you guys know her in the D.C. Beltway, the Insider Beltway. You know, she's the Washington Times opinion editor, but she also has the great podcast, Bold and Blunt Podcast. And she is out front in the public square with her sword and with her armor telling us Christians what we need to do. And honestly, she's going to surprise us all this morning because we're not talking politics. I know you guys want politics, but no, we're going to take a break from it. Well, probably. We are going to be talking about her brand new fiction book that is out August this month. We have so many great books coming to us this month of August. And the book is called Chloe, but it's book one of Chloe's People. And I absolutely love this book. I cannot put it down. Yes, you guys, add it to your tablet, add it to your Amazon bucket list. It's on pre-order right now. It's out August 28th. Go pick it up. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
So great to be with you, Eden. Thank you so much for that very kind and gracious introduction. Appreciate it.
Well, it's the morning here, and I've drank a ton of coffee, so I'm just gonna knock it out here.
Believe it, I'm caffeine.
Oh my gosh. So is this your first fiction book?
That is being published. Yes. Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay. So I love the book. And for those who are watching on the YouTube channel, here is the cover. And for those who have subscribed to the newsletter, you've already seen a preview of this, but there's going to be more coming out in our August and September newsletters. So tell us about Chloe, the name, the inspiration, all of it.
Okay, so the basic storyline of Chloe is about a little girl who is raised in horrible conditions, and she found God in a somewhat mysterious manner. God came and got her out of her darkness, brought her in the light. And so it's a very human story. It's very it's Christian fiction, but it's very real. My concern in my Christian faith is about those people who haven't been raised in the church, have suffered terrible conditions in their youth, and therefore, as they move into adulthood, they don't have a mindset of what's normal, what's supposed to be godly, what God is, and how God works in their life. And so this book is aimed at the Christian community, showing members in the church how to regard those with compassionate eyes who haven't been raised in the church and maybe don't have the same kind of way of thinking they do in terms of God and biblical truth and so forth.
Well, talk about the character, talk about Chloe. You open the book, and I don't want to give too much away, but you open the book and we're going to be real. There's trauma there. There's a lot of trauma. There's there's domestic abuse, there's physical abuse, there's verbal abuse. And then you continue to see in the coming chapters, additional abuses that come. Was there one specific thing that you saw in life that really kind of inspired you to talk about Chloe? Was it a child that you had witnessed? Is it a combination of stories?
Well, so let me answer that in two ways. So the inspiration for Chloe really came from a discussion I had with a woman I greatly admired in a church that I used to attend. We went out to lunch one day and we were talking about this and that and that and this. And it came up during our chat about people who have made bad choices in life. And she spoke specifically about a girl that she knew had been a prostitute. And she made the remark, I don't know why this woman would do this. I don't know why she would make that choice. And it struck me deep inside because I thought, you know, if you're raised in the church like this woman was, right, from her youth all the way up to present day, you don't understand the concept of choice is very different from people who are raised in abusive home environments, who are raised in broken homes. Their choice is coming from a viewpoint of secularism without understanding of God. And so I thought to myself, what about those poor people in the world, in America, who are raised in homes like that? And, you know, they go on to have terrible lives of darkness because they don't really have clear eyes about what God is and who God is. And so that was really the genesis for my thought, the formation of this series. And that's kind of where it led me. And to answer a little bit more fully, I was a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate, which was a volunteer position I did for almost 5 years, where you take children who have been removed from their homes because of abuse and neglect and placed in the foster system. And as a CASA, you visit that child and follow that child, and you're with that child for over a year as they move through the foster system, and the judge relies on CASAs to make the difficult decision of where that child should be placed. So I've seen all kinds of abuse and neglect, and how it impacts children and how it changes their way of thinking and regarding the world.
So having been a CASA and also with your background and your journalism background, coming to more, the tangible approaches to this book, can we say that this book would be an opportunity for those who are looking for a way to get through to a teenager, let's say a teenager, or someone who is in that mode? Or I guess my other thought process to this is this something that we in the church need to be awakened to? I think that's the bigger question. I mean, I know you and I have had offline conversations, and audience, full disclosure, Cheryl and I are friends, so I'll vent to her about the things I see happening in the church. And, the thing that really concerns me in the church is just that arrogance and that pride, that we're so focused on law versus on God's grace. And I see that across the board, whether you're Catholic or Protestant or whatever. Okay, I'm done with my filibuster here. Do you think that Chloe has that opportunity to really kind of open those doors and break down some of those walls?
That's basically my intent. So your first question, would it help parents with
Yeah.
teenagers? Yes, right. It'll open the eyes of parents, especially parents who are Christian and don't really believe their children can fall into some of the perils that children of non-Christian parents face. But as far as opening the eyes of the church, that's exactly what I hope to do with this, because look, the church does a good job with its members, right? Going over biblical
Yeah.
truths and preaching and worship services and so forth, and missions. But I think the church, and I've been to quite a few, does a horrible job about reaching those who don't know about the church and don't understand why they should go to church. And I know that members of the church that go out and they knock on doors and they hand out pamphlets and so forth,
Yeah.
and they talk about God, and they speak Christ to people in their daily lives. But we really need to do a better job about making church accessible to those who weren't raised in Christian homes. And let me give you one quick anecdote, a
Yeah.
personal experience of what I mean by this. A church I went to, the same one I referenced earlier, very, very great, big church, large, people great there. I love them all. They all dress up, they all put on their Sunday faces and so forth, and we're all very polite to each other. And one week there was a woman who came to church wearing a sleeveless shirt with a huge tattoo on her arm, which in this particular church I had attended, tattoos were taboo. You weren't supposed to, like many Christians think. But I was very happy to see her there. She made me happy that day because I thought, wow, this is so cool. This woman is brave enough to come into this church where everybody is dressed to the nines and is so proper. And I thought this will be great for our church because it shows we're reaching a segment of society that we normally don't reach. Well, she didn't come back. I never saw her after that. And that, I think, is a sad failing. And that's what I'm trying to get at with Chloe, to give church members a little bit more compassionate eyes when they look around and see these sin-filled humans on display. We're all sin-filled, but some show it more than others. And not just dismiss them as, oh, that poor child of God, but really understand how you might be able to reach that person and bring that person to Christ.
Yes, absolutely. One thing I love in your book, you keep bringing it up, and it's the simple phrase, God loves you. And, I don't think people hear that enough. I don't think I think people don't say it enough. They don't believe it. And when they do hear it, oh no, I've sinned too much. Why would he love me? And, that is threaded throughout your book. And I think that is so, it's one, inspiring, but two, do we believe it when we say it? I know I do. I know you do. But having been, you and I have attended so many different churches, have been around so many different cultural groups. And I'll give you an example of growing up in near the Amish country, practically Amish, growing up as a Protestant and seeing that I could not dress a certain way. And then if I dressed a certain way, I would not be able to go to church. I remember there's a university in the South. I'm going to keep the name off here, but I was going to go to Wednesday night church with my aunt and uncle. And I had a simple khaki pair of pants and a sweater on. And my aunt said, "You can't wear that. You're going to get me in trouble. And then you're going to get your uncle in trouble. And then we won't be allowed to attend service." And I sat there and thought about it. How is this right? This isn't right, because you are completely removing the grace. You are completely removing an opportunity who may not know the Lord, or maybe someone who is struggling with their faith and struggling to understand it. You're deterring them altogether because of how they look. And it's like you said, every one of us are sinners. And that has always stayed with me. So no matter where I go, whether I go to the Catholic masses with my husband or I go to my small country church here in Eastern North Carolina, I sit there and say, how do we welcome people? How do we engage with other cultures? How do we engage that person over there who may be struggling, who it's visibly that they're struggling? And I'm challenging myself, but I'm also challenging the audience here. And I don't want to keep preaching, but it's something that I've been convicted on, but I'm also convicted as I read your book, Chloe, saying, what can we do for this nation? What can we do for our future generations to prevent these types of abuses from happening? Obviously, we live in a simple world, but what can we do? This is another tool that we can use towards that.
Right. So evil is never going to be eradicated until
Right.
Jesus comes back, right? So there will be abused kids for as long as we're here on earth. But look, the character Chloe, it would not go to church unless something came to alter her viewpoint to bring her into church, which is what happened. So when you ask, what can we do? Well, these people that we're talking about here, the ones who don't know God, they're not just going to magically show up at church. We have to step outside the church and go to them. And that's what Jesus did, right? He went to the sinner's home and ate dinner with sinners. And, he didn't wait for them to come to him. He went to them. And so really, when you talk about God loves you, and that is a phrase that keeps reoccurring throughout Chloe, I did that on purpose because when I was an atheist, I noticed, because I was raised in an atheist family, I didn't come to Christ until my late 30s, early 40s. And I noticed that a lot of people I knew who said they were Christian, they had all these little phrases they'd love to throw out there. God loves you, put it in God's hand, and, let Jesus take the wheel, that kind of thing. And when you're an atheist or when you're a secularist or don't know God, that's meaningless to you. It's like, what do you mean God loves me? Why doesn't he pay my bills? Why do I have all these issues happening in life? And so it's not until you come to Christ and you understand the deep love that God has for you, and then it becomes meaningful. But you're not going to get that by just going to church and waiting for people to come to church. We have to do a better job of getting outside the church building and bringing Christ to those who need it in our communities, in our backyard, in our own areas of influence.
Well, I mean, you say it so perfectly. I'm going to zero back to your podcast, but in some of the segments that you talk about, we, of those who are of faith, who believe in God, we need to be more active in the public square. We cannot allow ourselves to either be censored by weaponization of government or to allow that fear of what other people are going to say or think to hinder us from being active and being, that salt, that light, that fragrance that we need to be, whether it is you reporting from the Washington Times or whether it is a mom sitting at our kitchen table helping her kids with their schoolwork, whether it is a farmer working on the crops. We all have a certain way that we are able to be salt and light and the fragrance of God, and to not be afraid to speak up. I think that's a bigger thing. And it's like you said, get out of the church walls because everything's the mission field, right?
Right. And you know what? When you make that decision to do that as an individual, God will help you. I remember when I was moving from atheism into belief and I had questions and so forth, one of the phrases I heard was that be bold for God. And I was like, what does that even mean? And I remember one night getting so frustrated. What does that even mean? And 2 days later, riding the metro, right, which is the subway system in DC, as you know, Eden,
Mm.
there was a woman in this crowded commuter metro car. She just started shouting out, all of you, I want you to have a blessed day. May Christ be with you. And she went on for a minute. And I thought, that's what being bold is. And I thought, that's God giving me a real life example of what this means. So I find that the more you walk toward God to do his will, the more he will do these amazing things that just make you sit up and think like, wow, that's just miraculous coming right into my life.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I sit there and say, we as women of faith, we could call ourselves the modern day Esthers, but you so eloquently with this is your sort of faith. This is, what the full armor of God really talks about. And this is a perfect example of what we can be using in the churches, in the schools, in our families, and really being able to use this as a tool to talk about and raise awareness of the things that are really happening around us. So, okay, as we are wrapping this segment, we've been talking, and we could talk some more. Tell me about the publishing house who's putting this book out. Let's talk about them and who founded it. And let's talk about what you have coming since we are in August. I can't believe it's August. As we head into the fall, talk about some of the big projects you have coming up in coordination with the book.
So Fidelis is the publishing house. Ollie North is the one who started Fidelis. Gary Terashita is the editor there and part owner, I think. Excuse me if I got the title wrong. But it's a great publishing house out in Nashville. They do Christian fiction and they do a lot of political nonfiction books from a Christian conservative point of view. So what I have coming up, this comes out, Chloe comes out August 28th. The second in the series, I'm wrapping it as we speak. As soon as we hang up, Eden, I told you I'm going to go back and finish it. Hopefully that'll be out within the next few months. But the end of Chloe actually gives you a preview chapter of part 2, which is called Hector. And in addition to that, I continue working at the Washington Times and I have a nonfiction book coming out in January as well. So
you're not too busy.
no, a little bit, little bit.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
I am so thankful for one, your friendship, two, this amazing book, this new fiction book by Cheryl Chumley, book 1 of Chloe's People, Chloe, a novel. Go pick it up. It has received the All-American Book Club here at WMAL's full endorsement, and we look forward to our next with you and our next segment with you. And thank you so much for your service to this great nation.
Thank you, Eden. Thank you so much.